The Iranian Revolution in plain English. We will begin our story from September 1941. Germany is now Iran's leading trade partner. The Allies demanded Reza Shah of expulsion of all Germans from Iran, but Reza Shah did not give in. Under the pressure from the Allies, Reza Shah relinquished the throne to his inexperienced son Mohammad Reza. Reza Shah deported from Iran and died in 1944.
Even though the political parties in Iran had different views, all of them wanted foreign involvement in Iran to end. The British-owned Anglo-Iranian oil company AIOC became the center of resentment of foreign involvement in Iran. British's influence in Iran's oil industry can also be traced back to 1901, when Mozaffar al-Din Shah granted William D'Arcy a concession for oil in southern Iran. The terms in the arrangement with Iran were extremely favorable to the British. By the late 1940s, Iran had become the fourth world's largest oil exporter. The AIOC excluded Iranians from jobs and did not give Iran any power in running the company. The negotiations between Iran and AIOC did not go as smooth, but the British offered to train more Iranians for higher positions and also promised that royalty payments would not drop below £4 million per year.
The British has also created a supplemental agreement to serve their interests. The Shah knew that he owed his position to the British. The supplemental agreement needs the Majlis to ratify it for it to become a law. However, they did not agree with the supplemental agreement but was afraid to anger the Shah. The debate was interrupted by the new election for the Majlis. Eager to pass the supplemental agreement, the Shah began to bribe and place his supporters in the Majlis. Outraged by the Shah's attempt to hijack the vote, a politician named Mohammad Mossadegh led a protest in Tehran on October 1949 for a fair election. Ultimately, the Shah gave in. Mossadegh was then appointed to be the prime minister. His goal was to nationalize the AIOC, which stands for Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. Americans and the British saw him as a threat and began to cope against him. On August 19, 1953, they captured Mossadegh.
10 years later, after Mossadegh has been overthrown and the Shah has come back to power, he started what we call the White Revolution. The White Revolution is not a revolution. It is in fact a name for the reforms the Shah has adopted to reduce dissatisfaction. The reforms include redistributing land to peasants and sharecroppers, giving women the right to vote, and creating the Literacy Corps. The Shah created the Literacy Corps to increase the education level. He took lands from wealthy landlords as well as the clerics and gave it to the peasants. 75% of the peasants still did not receive enough land to support their family. Many peasants migrated to Iran's growing cities to get a job. The improvement of healthcare also contributed to the growth in cities.
In 1971, the Shah threw a party to celebrate the 2,500 years of Iranian monarchy at Persepolis. More than $100 million was spent, about $500 million today. The Shah ordered luxurious accommodations built and invited many important foreign people. Guests drank over 5,000 bottles of French champagne. The Shah held a ceremony that celebrated the glory of Iran and Mohammad Reza Shah's connections to the pre-Islamic kings. Many Iranians saw this as an absurd comparison because the Pahlavi dynasty only lasted for 50 years. While $100 million was spent on a party, many Iranians still remained in poverty, showing the lack of compassion of the Shah.
After the Shah has left Tehran to New York for cancer treatment, a group of students led by military clerks seized the American embassy in November of 1979. The Iranians worried that the US and Britain will plot another coup to overturn the revolution, and they also demanded the Shah back for trial. A man named Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini saw this as an opportunity to strengthen his power in Iran. At the same time in the US, Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan are running for office. Ronald Reagan criticized every solution that Jimmy Carter has thought of to solve the problem of the American hostage crisis. Finally, in 1981, when Ronald Reagan has won the election and Khomeini is in control of Iran, they both thought that the hostages were no longer useful for them. After 444 days, the 66 American hostages were finally released.
In conclusion, most Iranians are better off under the Islamic Republic than the Shah. Life expectancy grew from 50 years in the late 1970s to 70 years now. Remote villages now have schools, clinics, roads, and safe drinking water. but economic hardship and widespread unemployment are still huge problems for Iran.
Many people desire political change. Iran struggled to incorporate ideas about participation and democracy into its own culture can be traced back over the past century. Constitutional Revolution of 1906 to 1911, the Mossadegh era of 1951 to 1953, and the Iranian Revolution of 1979. Iran is a country facing change, under pressure from both inside and outside. Iran's future is uncertain.